When we can get out of whack, we tend to take on a lot more stress, and it affects everybody. It affects your production, it affects your home life. You'll experience burnout, your mental health, your stability. The things that came natural that were easy for you to do seem to be harder. Welcome to the Business Coffee Hour with William Garay Jr. I'm your host, where we take a look at the human side of entrepreneurship and leadership over a cup of coffee. So I hope you grab your favorite mug. Join me as we jump right into it. We covered goals, we covered morning routines. We've got a few guests lined up as well, but I wanted to jump right into work life balance. I feel like this is like a buzzword that a lot of folks hear and nobody really knows exactly what it means. So let's take a look. Work life balance is the amount of time that you spend at work versus doing the things that we like to do, spending time with our loved ones. It's very difficult to do because if you're, we all have to work. And if you're really passionate about the work that you do, can tend to want to be there often, which is actually a really good thing. Not a lot of folks are working in their passion. What I've seen and I've noticed lately is there's a big drive and push to do the things you love to do and mirror those with the line of work you like to do. So being able to spend our time equally between our work and our actual life. And why is it so important to us? Because the amount of time that we spend at work runs over and bleeds into our home life. There's no separation anymore between work and home. You may think that you can separate the two, but you can't. Who you are at home is who you are at work. And what you do at work and who you are at work oftentimes will show up in your home life as well. So if you really want to be a good leader, a good business owner, you have to focus on being a great person all around. Now, what will tend to happen is we can get out of whack when we spend too much time at work or when the stresses of our work, we can tend to bring those home. Now, as many of you know, I spent time in the military. I would try and leave what I did at in the army there and have this pause where my drive home or even when I got into the car, I would take a couple of minutes to kind of reset myself so that I could be fully present when I get home. But it gets difficult because we really can't just let things go. We really can't just turn the switch off. We have to learn to be fully present with wherever we are. We have to learn to be here now. You're listening to this. So, how do we fully be present in this audio or this video form? I'm in our studio. How do I make sure I'm fully present and turning everything else off? Those are the keys. That's the unlock to having a good work life balance. Now, when we can get out of whack, we tend to take on a lot more stress and it affects everybody. It affects your production, it affects your home life. You'll experience burnout, your mental health, your stability. The things that came natural that were easy for you to do seem to be harder. So we have to really key in and focus on how do we achieve this infamous work life balance. And when you can get in line, when you can get better, everything improves. Who you are at home, you no longer have to pretend like your work life is different. It's all one meaningful purpose. We have another podcast that we run. It's called Charlie Mike, which means continue mission. And if your purpose and what you do is aligned with who you are, then your work and who you are at home is becomes easier to represent completely. So some of the common challenges that we all face when it comes to a work life balance is the amount of time that we spend at work. Now, when you become an entrepreneur or you put into that leadership role, we almost feel this weight like we have to spend more time there. What's key is doing this and managing it well, setting the expectations up front. When I took on a new business, I had to be very transparent with my family and my spouse, especially to say, when I go to work, I'm working. But when I come home, I promise to leave that home. And one thing that I do, at least weekly, sometimes more than that, is I check in with that. How am I doing this week? Am I fully present? Am I forgetting something? And it just so happened that this past week, I asked that question to my wife. What can I do better? What do I need help with? And what do you need help with? And she's mentioned, you know, I'm starting to take the trash out more. I'd appreciate it if you're aware of that. Just that simple question, how can I help you more? How can I be more present? Allowed me the next day to say, let me make sure I take this trash out. Let me make sure that when I'm home, I'm not just rushing all of my time to get to work to fulfill, even though I'm very passionate about what I do, I have to make sure that it's aligned with where I'm at home because if my life gets out of balance, there'll be added stress. I'll bring that to work with me and I won't be fully present to make sure that I'm giving out the best product that I can do. And if you're not married or you're in a relationship, there's other folks that you can turn to, your friends, your relatives, your peers to say the same thing. Do you think I'm out of line? Do you think that I'm not fully present? How can I help you with your situation? And I can give you good feedback on what I think our relationship is. Because a real life example, I was in the military. I spent a lot of time there. We spent a lot of time around veterans now. And the reason why I bring up the military and veterans so much is because that population is so diverse that they're such a great group to use as an example for the rest of our country because they are male, female, rich, poor, white, black, Hispanic, Asian. Like they're so diverse. But what you can tend to notice in the military is we think that active duty is associated with divorce rates. And that's actually quite opposite. The divorce rates are about the same while you're active duty. The trouble becomes when you become a veteran and you leave the military, the divorce rates go up to about 50%. And if you're a combat veteran, the divorce rates really excel to about 80%. And this is post military because we lose our sense of mission. We lose our sense of purpose. There's been a great change, and we're not communicating enough with what's going on. We're not in tune enough to realize that our work life balance is out of whack because we spend so much time in our work doing what we love to do, serving our country, that our spouses are there with us, our families. But when we come back home, how do we make sure that our home life and our passions are reignited? So, how do we make sure that our work life balance is in touch with who we are? One way that we do this is by looking at our values. I've been through a Dare to Lead training. I have enjoyed the teachings of Brene Brown. I have two core values that run my life. The first being family, and the second being resilience. And to me, family is treating others like family, making sure that they feel the warmth, they are loved, and they get that quality time with me and I'm being present. So it goes further than just being blood related. Resilience to me is about optimism and gratitude and being able to bounce back. Now, where that comes into play with the work life balance is if I'm in a situation or I have a tough decision to make, I ask, is this in line with my values? And I share my values with my business partners, with those I'm in close contact with, and my family. My wife knows my values. Her core values are very similar. They're a little different. But if you understand your values, when it comes time to do your time management or set your boundaries or delegating tasks, you know what feeds you energy. And my values are very, very dear to me. So I make sure that the tasks that I'm doing are aligned with those. Time management. You can use time block. That's what I've been doing lately. You got to make sure that your time is on your schedule because when you don't assign those times, something else will come about or you'll get distracted and start, we all do it, aimlessly scrolling or finding ways to bide your time. Relationships, it's another way you can make sure your work life balance is in tune. A good core friend group that you can have peers with, asking them for their advice, uh, seeking others that you may admire, how they're handling their relationships. And then for me, I always try to make sure I focus, follow one course until success. If I can focus on making sure my work and my home life is well, it makes it easier for me to be very productive with the time that I've been allowed it. Some of the things to keep in mind as we wrap out this episode is to make sure that you're prioritizing yourself. You're the one that's in charge of your work life balance. Wherever we may be working, we may have managers or bosses, partners, spouses, business partners. We need to make sure we're talking to them. Communication flows both ways. If I can over communicate to them what's going on, they're going to give me good feedback. And if I'm open and honest and vulnerable in that situation, they're going to give me the advice that I need and I can set clear boundaries with them. One other thing that you can do, a small little book called Hell Yes. If you're given an option or a choice and you can only answer yes to that, then it needs to be a no. But if you're given an option like, hey, let's go out to lunch today, and it's not a hell yes, then it should be a no. I try to use that as often as I can. If there's something that doesn't make me say hell yes, then I'm going to answer no to it. Because if I start saying yeses to the little things, it's going to eat up my calendar and my time. And when something that comes along that I'm very passionate about, that aligns with my values, that I'm very motivated to do, I won't have the time to schedule it or put it in because I've said yes to too many things. So learning to say no is one way that we can take control of our time and make sure that we're in our work life balance. I hope that a lot of this has brought value to you. I hope that you can take the time to examine your situation, that you can set clear boundaries, manage expectations between your family and your work life. I hope that you make sure you know that your health is key to this work life balance issue. Your physical health, your mental health, and your financial health. Those three things, when it comes to health, I have to keep in the forefront of my mind. And I'm pretty sure our next episode will talk more about financial health. Make sure you say no. That's one key thing we can all do. And make sure you have time to have fun. Whatever it may be, setting time for yourself, things that bring you joy, where you're having fun, helps you keep a work life balance. So again, work life balance is a something that is managed by you. You're in charge of that. Be aware of your situation. Be aware of what you're saying yes to. Take charge and say no. Because if we can keep our work and life into balance, we will have less stress and be more productive in our time, in our relationships, and in the work that we do. Because we all want to do meaningful work. I hope that this has brought you some value. I encourage you to share your own tips on what you do for your work life balance. You can share it with me at WGARAY Jr. You can tag us on your socials. I hope you'll stay tuned for future podcast episodes. If this has brought value to you, the best thing you can do for us is leave a review, share the clips on social, be interactive because we are just getting started. I look forward to you guys tuning in. I look forward to your feedback. I love you guys.